Welcome to today's edition of The Blazing Grace Show with Jason Graves, Mike Janung, and Julie Dozier. Blazing Grace covers important life-affecting issues with grace-filled answers. Here are your hosts, Jason, Mike, and Julie.
It's The Blazing Grace Show. Thanks for tuning in, and you are listening here in studio with Mike Janung and Julie Dozier. Hello, my faithful, trusty cohorts.
Hello.
You've been pretty excited to be here today.
Julie's all like tan. Like, have you been to Maui or somewhere?
Goodness gracious.
No. I hate to even tell the truth because it might not make me look so authentic.
But just Houston, huh? No, okay. Just a tanning bed in Houston, right? Okay.
Well, sort of.
Okay. Well, listen, we're excited to be doing this show. And Julie, we've got some special guests here today. Well, we're going to do a wives panel. So if any of you wives are out there listening, we're going to talk about wives issues. What's it like to be somebody married to or formerly married to or maybe someday married to somebody who's dealing with sexual addiction? And so, Julie, would you like to welcome your guests aboard here today?
Yes. I would like to welcome Shanna, first of all. Say hello, Shanna.
Hello to everybody.
And Amy.
Hi.
Okay.
Welcome to the show, ladies. We want to go ahead and start by sort of having you share your story. So, Amy, in just a second here, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about, where you're at, what brings you to the show today, and what you would like folks to hear about your story.
Sure. I was married about a year and a half and had a 4-month-old baby when I found out about my husband's sexual addiction. I found out by basically just asking him, and for some reason finally got the truth out of that conversation. And then we started into therapy immediately. We had already had a marriage therapist, but it did take us a while, probably about 6 months to a year, to find the right people to help us.
Mm-hmm. 6 months to a year, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you found out when your baby was about 4 months old.
Right.
Okay, wow. Well, we have a 4-month-old baby right now, actually, and I got to tell you, I can't imagine my wife going through all of that that we've been through at this point. I mean, how did you cope being a new mother? Was that your first?
It was my first child, yes, and he actually had just gone through heart surgery, so we had been through a big ordeal right after his birth as well. It was a stressful year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You said you found out by asking. Was there some sort of intuition that you sensed something wasn't right, or what brought that about?
There was, actually. That's exactly what I said to him, was that that I really felt like I was still missing a lot of information. I had bits and pieces of some things here and there, but I told him that I just knew that I didn't know everything. And what I said was that I would give him an amnesty day, and that he could tell me the truth and tell me all of the truth that day, that I would not divorce him or have any huge consequences. I didn't know what I was saying at the time, but didn't know what I was promising. But
Right.
But we are still married, and it's been 3 years later.
Wow.
Was it, with what you feel comfortable sharing, was this porn alone, or was there other things involved?
There were other things. There were prostitutes, pornography, affairs.
Yeah. So it was compounded by multiple avenues, if you will, of acting out.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you said something really profound that I think we really need to encourage wives on, and that is that you trusted your gut. And I'm just wondering, we've all heard of women's intuition, and I'm just wondering, Amy, what would you have to say to the wife out there who might be in denial or who might not be inclined to trust her instincts?
I would say pray.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely stay connected to God, pray, and He will affirm your discernment on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, powerful.
In her book, An Affair of the Mind, Lori Hall had, 2, 3, 4 different examples of women who the Lord just prompted and then went to their husbands, and the Lord either led them to a specific place or, like you, led them to ask them the questions. And it just seems like I hear so often, we get the emails so often, that the wife just senses that something's wrong, even if the husband hasn't told anything. There's no evidence found. And
Yeah, follow that intuition, definitely.
Right.
And
Amy, can you tell us a little bit about what that recovery process was like for you?
For us, it was, we went first to our just normal marriage therapist, and she was wise enough to know that she was not equipped to deal with this situation. So she sent me to, well, she kind of gave me some information about some people who might be qualified to do sexual addiction recovery therapy. And I went to some people at first who were secular, and they were not the right people for me. My husband ended up going there as well, and he has stayed there, and it has worked for him, and it's been very helpful for him. And then I found Julie about a year after I was in recovery.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's what we said when we found her too. So you're not alone. We know the feeling. So I mean, so great. I mean, you're a great example of somebody who you're taking a different path than your husband, but it's working. And I think there's a great point in there is that it may take a while to find something, but you have to press on and persevere until you're satisfied. And secondly, hey, just because somebody's a secular therapist, that doesn't mean that you throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, there's good therapy out there, and it can come in different packages. It just depends on what your convictions are. Some people would really need a Christian therapist and wouldn't really be open to anything else, and that's fine too. But the things that make therapy work, folks, across different models, across different theories, is does the therapist have a positive focus on change? Are they continually checking in on, hey, how are things changing and how are things growing? B, how well do they fit with the model that they're using? And C, do you like each other? You know, because if you like the therapist, it's probably going to work out. If the therapist likes you, it's probably going to work out. If either one of you don't like each other, there might be a problem. And if you both don't like each other, then call Julie.
Problem.
Okay. All right. So, great, Amy. Anything else you want to add, Amy, before we switch to Shanna?
No, that's fine.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Well, Shanna, you have been so patient. And, and you're going to have to be a little bit more patient here because Mike just raised his finger. I think he's got a question.
I was just curious, Amy, where your husband is with brokenness. I mean, was he broken after he revealed all that stuff? Or
That is a great question. He was not immediately affected by it. I think he was scared by what the consequences might be, but it took about 6 months of working and being in recovery and therapy before he was really even ready to stop being defensive and to stop lying. So it was a long process before he even came around. So it's a good question because I know a lot of husbands don't respond really favorably to being found out, so to speak, and since then, it's been a slow process of kind of coming out of that denial. It did not happen all at once for my husband.
Right.
And Amy, what was that like for you, knowing that you were not seeing the remorse, you were not seeing the brokenness?
It was very, very hard. It made the grieving harder. It made keeping hope harder. It was I definitely had a lot of roller coasters. They talk about that in the first year or two of recovery, how it's like a big roller coaster ride, and it definitely was that for me.
And how did you persevere through that then?
Oh, I think prayer. I think God got me through it. I don't really think I did that on my own at all.
Wow, powerful. All right, so now one quick question before we shift to Shanna. You are coming back to the prayer thing a couple times, which sure tells me you have a really strong faith. But A, a lot of people don't have as strong a faith, and B, Scripture does tell us that in the sanctification process, 1 Thessalonians 5:23 says we need to be sanctified body, mind, and spirit. And so what were some things that you did on the body and mind end of things, the heart end of things, if you will, in addition to the spiritual end of things?
As far as taking care of myself during that time?
Right, yeah.
Well, to be honest, I really didn't know how to take care of myself that first year, which is why I really say God got me through it. During the process, I started to learn how to take care of myself, and I feel that I've learned that now. It's still a continual thing to work on right now, but I would say finding, and I can talk more about that later, it was another thing I wanted to say, was finding safe people to talk to.
Great. Great. Important. All right. Okay, so listen, Shanna, you've been really patient. I'm not going to fake you out this time. Don't worry. Okay. But listen, why don't you share a little bit about your story, what brings you here today, and where have you been, and where do you think you're going?
Okay. I have been married now for 15 years, and I would say that early on in our marriage, probably in the first couple years of marriage, I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know exactly, what was wrong. The dynamic between my husband and I was tense, and when there was conflict, I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was just such a difficult process, and we just, could go for hours, and just talking about things, and there was just, over time, I came to realize that there was just a lot of verbal abuse there. So I just felt very beaten down, I guess, and but it just my commitment to the marriage was there, and I also I think I knew somehow that he was watching pornography, but because the dynamic was so unhealthy, that's not something I felt capable of addressing, and I think at the time, I guess because this is so not spoken, in our churches or and in the world, it's so accepted, that I just thought, well, I think I need to close my eyes on that because, the marriage is hard, and maybe I just need to let him have that. I think it wasn't like I really had a conscious thought process of this, but I think now that I look back, I think that I allowed myself to close my eyes on that. And so we just, went through a few years of, infertility and, wanting to have a child, and then, I had my first child, and the marriage was hard, and I really didn't know where to turn to, but found a therapist where I lived at the time, a Christian counselor who I just needed help, just to know how to live day by day with the tension that was all the time in the air. And at the time, I was pregnant with my second child, probably when I found her, and I became suspicious that there might be other things going on with him, and just the hours at work were just so late, and the type of work he does would allow, it would be easy to give a reason why he would be late, but it just was so consistently late, and there was just more and more withdrawing in the relationship, and so I talked about that as well to my counselor at the time, and she asked me if I thought he was having an affair, and I just thought, oh, there's just no way, because of the vows we had made to each other when we got married, it just seemed so unimaginable. Right. But at some point during my second pregnancy, I decided to talk about it. I had spoken to a dear friend, and we prayed, over this, and she was very concerned about the fact that might be going on. And so, with much fear, as you can imagine, because of, the dynamic, I decided to go ahead and ask him about that. But, he just flatly denied that anything like that was going on. Right. So, so I just, I believed it. I felt kind of shamed in some ways, ashamed of myself that I would even think that, because he was working so hard, Right. And so I guess we made a move to Houston, and that's when I thought, because the person that he was probably having an affair with, or I thought was having an affair with, wasn't in this new city. And so anyway, so when we came here, the same sort of process happened where, the hours were late and he was on the phone a lot with a coworker. And so I just became, again, very suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just, my very, very dearest friend, wonderful Christian woman, I just, called her and I just told her, I said, I think it's happening again. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Because I think somewhere deep inside I thought that even though he had denied, the first relationship, I think I didn't completely believe it, but I had nothing to go on. So,
so Shanna, you were saying that there were suspicions along the way you knew about, or you felt like you knew about the porn. There were affairs, and so what happened? Let's just kind of go to the point where you actually confronted him and go from there.
Okay. I guess I decided I was very much encouraged by this dear friend as well to confront him. I didn't have any counseling at the time because I was new in town, so I did. And again, there was complete denial.
Mm-hmm.
And but I just felt like that everything was speaking to that. The cell phone records. There was just so many things that were showing that
Right.
there was something going on.
So like Amy, you had to trust your gut and really press through this. And, I'm really interested in the shame you talked about, because shame is such a killer on both ends of this deal. Both ends of this deal. You've got addicts dealing with shame. You've got wives dealing with shame. What was that shame like for you? What was it telling you, and how did you experience that shame, Shanna?
Well, I guess I experienced it initially just the thoughts that your spouse could be having an affair just is shaming. I mean, it's shaming to yourself, and you feel you're shaming them, in just thinking that.
Right, like if this is true, then what kind of a person does that make me, or what kind of a person does that make my husband?
Exactly.
Well, yeah, and I mean, isn't that true? Doesn't the enemy love to use shame to cause us to stay stuck or to get stuck, or to cause us to not do the right thing? And shame always wants to mess with our identity. It wants to tell you, you know what, you're bad, or you're wrong, or you're less than, or something like that. But it sounds like you were able to press through that somehow, huh?
Well, I did, but I think it was very blurry because of the shame. Because I mean, there's such confusion. You have so many conflicting emotions,
right?
That you just don't know. You don't know how to think. You don't know if you're thinking straight or not, and
Right.
it just adds to just feeling horrible all the way around about everything that's happening, about yourself, about your spouse, about your life.
Right.
Shanna, what has helped you to I guess, add some clarification to that confusion? It took a while. I think it was certainly counseling. I mean, getting with the right person, basically finding Julie was really, a godsend for me. But also being in a recovery group, being with other women that were telling me, you are not crazy. You are not insane. What you're seeing is real. Even if your husband is telling you this is crazy making, it is not. And I think I needed to be affirmed around me, because I just had gotten to the point where I really had lost any kind of ability to think through this.
Right.
So has your husband ever come to the point of taking ownership for what he's done?
Yes, but I think my process was a little different in that I did end up, because there was such denial for so long, and then I had given him a list of things I needed to see change, but he would not admit to the affairs.
Right.
That I just I felt I needed to get someone, to hire somebody to just give me the proof that I needed, so
Right.
that he could admit it, because
Right.
there was no way he was ever going to tell me the truth unless I had something
Right.
really tangible.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, that's wisdom and discernment right there, because some people need to be caught before they can be in touch with the truth. You know, some people really need that. So intervention, you know, doing things like some wives have gone and hired private investigators. Some have actually hired an interventionist. That's a very loving thing to do. It seems mean. You know, and certainly, you know, there'll be a husband or two out there that would say, "Oh, you know, you're just being so mean to me," or, you know, "I can't. You know, where's the trust?" or try to manipulate you that way. But, you know, that's being responsible. So I really respect you, Shanna. Now, if you're just tuning in, you know, you're listening to the Blazing Grace Show, and we are visiting with a couple wives of sex addicts, folks who have gone through their own recovery process as well. Pretty exciting stuff. I want to let you know a couple things, and then we'll come back to the dialogue. But, you know, you've got a couple of intensives coming up in September, Julie. Is your marriage struggling similarly? Do you have these things going on, and are you in a place where you're needing some help as a couple? Well, Julie Dozier does a couples intensive, and there's one coming up in September. If you'd like more information about that, give her a call at 719-266 6636. Now, isn't that easy to remember? 719-266-6636. All right. If you're just struggling with pornography, masturbation, adultery, as a guy, and you want to get around some other guys and get some help, and that we're having an intensive seminar. It's an Every Man's Battle seminar in Nashville, July 13th through the 15th. So call me at 877-590-SOUL. That's 877-590-7685 for more information about that, or just go to my website, healingforthesoul.org. But listen, I got a question for both of you, Amy and Shannon, and then we may be out of time here shortly. You know, we talk about redemptive vision a lot, and it's about not just what we're recovering from, but what we're recovering to. And in fact, you know, just being on the show here today and giving back this way is a very redemptive thing. I mean, there's, you know, thousands of people that were here to the show, and they're going to be helped by your sacrifice and your story. Talk about what that does to you, and talk about, you know, how that feels to be able to give back like that and to be part of God's redemptive plan. Anybody want to go first?
I can.
Okay.
I think that this journey is definitely something that you do one day at a time, and it starts with healing. It moves into growth, and it's really a lifelong journey. And I think while you're growing and healing, you eventually get to the point where you can minister to others and help other people who have had similar struggles or are maybe a little bit before you in their process.
Right.
So I think that's how God uses the pain. That's how He uses our experience.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Amy. How about you, Shanna?
Well, I would say that even just the process of going through that kind of pain, you know, has completely changed who I am, and it has made me more tender and more aware of others' pain, whether it's, you know, the same kind of, you know, sort of life story, or people that are going through very, very deep hardships. And so I think God has softened and changed me, you know, just completely to become, you know, more sensitive to others' pain. And in some ways, you do feel kind of different a little bit, and you have a great need to be around others that have experienced that pain.
Right.
So anyway, it just, you know, it's a great blessing, you know, for me. Even though it's been hard to go through that pain, it's been a great blessing to be changed and be really touched by God's hand. And I hope that He can use me to touch others.
Well, I'd say He is using you, so congratulations and thank you. I'm just proud of you, ladies, and I'd like to just sort of, on behalf of all the men out there and the husbands out there who have offended their wives and gone down some of these roads, Mike and myself included, we'd just like to sort of make a symbolic apology to you and let you know that, look, it was not your fault. I know you already know this stuff, but I just want to offer that to you by way of apology, to just ask for your forgiveness and just say, hey, I know you've been offended, but I know that you also been very responsible, and I want to commend you for that.
Yep, amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
My
forgive
pleasure.
you.
Hey, I'll receive it. Amen. Well, listen, thanks for tuning in. Listen, if you are inclined, Blazing Grace is a listener-supported radio show. That means that Julie, Mike, and I pay for this out of our own pockets, and then whatever donations come in helps out. So perhaps you'd like to share the load. It's probably easier to pay for something with 3,000 people paying for it than, just 3. And, we would certainly love your support. So if you'd like to pony up and give us a hand, go to blazinggrace.org and look at the giving and support link there. You can also ask Mike more information about that, mike@blazinggrace.org. We'll be back with the Wives Panel next week. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Blazing Grace Show. We trust today's broadcast helps bring you closer to God and to what God desires for your life. Blazing Grace is a listener-supported mission intended to help listeners around the world. Your support is vital in keeping that mission alive. We ask you to prayerfully consider sending a tax-deductible gift to Blazing Grace. It would be gratefully appreciated. Send your monetary gift to Blazing Grace, P.O. Box 62521, Colorado Springs, Colorado 80962-2521. That's Blazing Grace, P.O. Box 62521, Colorado Springs, Colorado 80962-2521. Want to learn more about Blazing Grace? Find us on the internet at www.blazinggrace.org. That's BLAZINGGRACE.org/radio.htm. On that page, you'll find a downloadable copy of this show, or you can visit oneplace.com under Ministries. Look for Blazing Grace Radio. If you want help resolving a sexual addiction, you can reach Jason Graves by dialing toll-free 877-590-SOUL. That's 877-590-7685. Julie Dozier can be reached at 719-266-6636. That's 719-266-6636. Get a copy of Mike's book, The Road to Grace, by visiting roadtograce.com. That's the word to and not the number. Desire for a specific subject to be covered on the show? Email Mike Janung at mike@blazinggrace.org. We look forward to sharing more blazing issues and grace-filled answers with you next time. Thank you so very much for listening. Tell a friend about the broadcast. On behalf of Jason, Mike, and Julie, may God richly shine His grace upon you.